There are a lot of different feelings about Deion Sanders and his Colorado squad in 2024, but they have one big advantage that's really going to help them succeed this upcoming college football season.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Welcome to a wonderful Friday episode brought to you by Ultimate GM. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and it's 100% playable offline. Use the promo code Locked On College Football. That's LOCKEDON CFB, Locked On CFB, all caps inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in, making me a part of your daily routine, making me your first listen, liking, subscribing, and following. Love you guys for that. The college football season is right around the corner, and there's a lot to be excited about. And there's a lot to be questionable. There's a lot of things to ask questions about, One of those things, though, is not about Colorado because I think they have a built-in advantage for the second year in a row. And I think this year they'll know how to capitalize off of it. Let me explain. It's not Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, having the best quarterback in the Big 12, top 3 quarterback in college football, that helps. It's not an advantage, though. Having Travis Hunter, two-way star. He could do it on offense. He could do it on defense. He's probably the best player at each position. If he wanted to focus on defensive back, he'd be the best in the country. If he wanted to focus solely on receiver, he'd be the best in the country. But it's not that. It is the element of surprise. Boo. Boo. Like, what do we think of when we think of the element of surprise? We think of sneaking up on people. We kind of know what's there, but we have no idea what's going to happen, right? And I think that's exactly what Colorado is working with when they start this season next Thursday, against North Dakota State. So, element of surprise in Colorado, they have it in a multitude of ways. They bring in almost 50 transfers again. Do I love the method? I don't know. We're going to find out if I love the method or not this year because I think this is the do or die sort of season for the transfer portal method. But it still works to their favor because you know the guys that they have, right? You know LeJontay Wester was good at FAU. You know Will Shepherd was good at Vanderbilt. You know Deion Hayes and Samuel O were good at Pitt, rushing the passer. You know Preston Hodge, DJ McKinney. They were both really good corners at Oklahoma State and Liberty, respectively. But what we don't know is how Colorado is going to use them, right? We know they plan to use him. We know LeJontay Wester was the star of the spring game. We know Will Shepherd was the star of that open practice. Was that last week? I think it was. We know that. But we don't know what Pat Shurmur's offense is going to look like. If you guys remember, Pat Shurmur replaced Sean Lewis. And while he was implementing his sort of twist on the offense, he was still calling Sean Lewis's offense in a way, like the offense that they had implemented, because obviously they don't want to change it that much, right? So we don't know exactly what looks they're going to get from Pat Shurmur. You could go back to his NFL days and sort of see what they did. But again, different personnel. So there's the advantage on offense, right? And if your offense is if your offense is confusing defenses, they don't know what to line up for. They don't know what to look for. Well, guess what? That just makes life easier for Shedeur Sanders to get the ball in the hands of his playmakers. It also helps that he has a run game this year. Defensively, they got a lot better in the trenches, which offensively they did too as well. But defensively, they got better in the trenches. They got better in the secondary. Their linebacker group, I think it's iffy, but they do have a guy in Nikhai Hill-Green who's sort of emerging as a star. And then you have Trevor Woods and Levante Bentley. You have 3 guys who are really good. And then you have a couple other guys that are supporting roles, right? What is the advantage of having a defense that hasn't played together? Well, or a defensive coordinator who hasn't coordinated a defense ever in his life, right? What is the advantage there? No one knows what Robert Livingston's going to cook up. We talked about it a lot in my comment section after the last, the open practice. I can't get that word out of my head. I was going to call it the last spring game, but the last open practice, right? I got into somewhat of a not heat. I wasn't mad. It just felt heated because it's like, oh, we're typing back and forth quickly. Comment in the comment section saying, because we talked about how the offensive line, me and Scott Proctor did, how the offensive line was getting beat routinely by the defense. And so someone's biggest sort of defense of the offense was it was a vanilla offense, right? Like they weren't calling anything special. They weren't giving the defense any looks because you don't know who's watching. And part of that's true. But also part of that, the other part or the flip side of that is we don't know what this defense is going to look like. The defense was as vanilla as it gets as well. And so obviously I think defenses have the advantage in that sort of scenario. But at the end of the day, these teams like North Dakota State, they have nothing to go off of, right? They can go off of personnel, which takes a lot of work because obviously 90% of this defense is from a different program. Was playing for a different program last year. They could go off of the Bengals defense last year. But is that Robert Livingston's defense? Is that his doing? I don't know. Like we're going to learn a lot about Colorado's defense week 1. Now, obviously, we can only learn so much from the well-off media videos. They're not going to show us like, hey, this is our base defense. This is what we want to run. This is sort of going to be our go-to play on this for when we get this look from the offense. This is going to be our go-to scheme, or this is going to be our go-to mindset. We don't get that. But what we do get, element of surprise. So while a lot of people view this North Dakota State team as someone who's going to beat Colorado, which I don't think they will, I think it'll be close, right? I think it's going to be a little uncomfortable for Colorado, but that's good. I think it's good to sort of get punched in the face a little bit week 1 because North Dakota State's going to be physical. They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to embarrass Colorado on the national stage. So if you're Colorado, figure it out. Figure out what can be done. Figure out how you can A, use this element of surprise to your advantage, but B, use it enough but build off of it. And what do I mean by that? Last year, Colorado had the same element of surprise. We went into that game against TCU knowing the bare minimum about the offense, I would say. Like we watched it in this. I went to the spring game. I watched. I'm like, wow, Montana Lamoni's Craig. He's really good. Not on the team. Wow. Like they targeted Travis Hunter a ton. They had other weapons, right? Jimmy Horn, I don't think he was featured that heavily in the spring game, but we didn't know what to expect from the Colorado team. So now I think it's similar, but I think, and then there's a whole new aspect of college football that helps this year with the helmet communications. And I think teams started to pick up on signs for Colorado and stuff like that. But you use the element of surprise to the best of your ability early on in the season. So that way you build confidence. And when you're going into, say, week 3 or 4 against Baylor or against Colorado State, Baylor or UCF, or even that week 7 game against Kansas State, you use the element of surprise to start off strong. You take that element of surprise, that strong start, and now you cash in on it, right? You use the momentum. You use what you've learned. You use how teams combated what you looks gave so far. This is all an advantage for Colorado because they can use all this to advantage. They can use the element of surprise to start strong. And then when teams start to adapt and sort of make adjustments, you learn from that. And I don't know if there was enough of that last year, right? I don't think Colorado learned enough from their mistakes last year. And I think that is going to be something that this built-in advantage really helps them with. You guys comment below. Am I reading too much into this element of surprise, or do you think it is also an advantage? When we come back, we're going to be talking about something that I was warning you guys, fellow media members, about for about a week, and they did not listen. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Hey, Locked On Buffs fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up about a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do, which is the Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being in the shoes of Coach Prime as the head coach of Colorado? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love. You are responsible for calling offensive plays during the game. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but it will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Buffs fans. Use the code Locked On College Football, Locked On CFB, all caps, Locked On CFB, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. Download the Gametime today. Download the Gametime, download the game. Just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up on app stores. Again, that's Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me a part of your daily routine, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. Couldn't do the show without you. Let's talk about it. Sean Keeler of the Denver Post was banned. And this isn't a segment to sort of take a you-know-what on Sean Keeler. This is just me talking about, I warned you guys. I warned you that this was the thing. I warned everyone that would listen that this was a thing. So if you aren't familiar, Colorado head coach Deion Sanders had a bit of a run-in with Sean Keeler. I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, August 9th, whenever that was. I feel like that was 2 weeks ago, right? Right? It felt 2 weeks ago. And Sean Keeler went to ask a question, and Coach Prime was like, "Why do you do that? Like, you don't like us. Why do you pretend to do that, or why do you do that?" And it was basically like the message that was being asked was like, you don't really rock with our program. So why are you pretending that you do? And I said then, and I'll say it now, we as media members, I'll put it this way, I'll include myself. We do our job to the best of our ability, to the way that we think is journalistically responsible, and to the way that we think is going to get us information that we want or need for the public and for just general coverage, right? Sean Keeler went to ask a question. Coach Prime shut the question down. And then in pending days, there was a video of Sean Keeler trying to ask, I think it was Warren Sapp, that I forgot what he was trying to ask him, but he was trying to ask him, hey, I wanted to ask you this, blah, blah. And all of a sudden in the background, you hear a staffer go, next question. Like he's not allowed to ask questions. Well, it was revealed today that Sean Keeler is banned from asking questions. And so this sort of brings up my whole argument, or sort of, it's not really an argument because it's true. As a media member, you do your job how you feel is right, but you can't be upset if it leads to repercussions. And so he is no longer allowed to ask questions indefinitely. He's still going to be credentialed and he's still going to be at the events. So don't be upset about that for you people that aren't his biggest fan, but he is still going to be there. He just can't ask questions. The school will not, or the program will not allow him to ask questions. And so they provided the Denver Post with examples, which were him calling Deion Sanders a false prophet, deposition Deion being used, Planet Prime, the Bruce Lee of BS, the Deion Kool-Aid, and he also referred to Colorado as a circus. And so there's kind of some pushback. And what people didn't realize is that in Coach Prime's contract, there is a a phrase or a clause that says he's only required to speak with mutually agreed upon media. So obviously there's a disagreement there. And the run-in with Keeler, which I think was the final straw, was on August 9th. And so Coach Prime said, and I quote, "You don't like us, man. Why do you do this to yourself? Why do you do this, though? No, I'm serious. Why do you do this? It would be hard for me to really engage with someone or something I really don't like. I'm just asking, what did I do?" And so obviously it kind of escalated from there, and he was banned 3 days later on August 12th. And now he can show up to events but not ask questions. And so he was doing what he felt was the right thing. And obviously it cost him an opportunity to talk to Coach Prime. And so why am I talking about this? Why am I making a big deal about this? Because I think college football people are going to make a big deal about this, right? And because it's Deion Sanders. Do I agree with not talking to the media because they don't really portray you the way you'd like? I would say it's up to the coach, right? It's not up to me. I don't know if I would prevent anyone from talking to me or asking me questions, but I could see why he did it. You know, he benefits off all those views and stuff like that. So it's totally up to Coach Prime. I personally would never want to be banned from talking to a coach, but at the same time, I think you have to read the room and kind of have to know like if this is going well or not. Like, oh, he doesn't like me anymore. He's not answering my questions, and so lesson learned, I guess, right? But I think people are going to be really mad at it. But this isn't the first time it's happened in college football. Won't be the last. But I do think it'll be highly scrutinized because it is Coach Prime, and that's just sort of something that we've grown to learn during the Coach Prime experience. When we come back, we're going to be talking about, is Colorado overrated, or are people looking at them through the wrong lens? This episode of Locked on Bus is brought to you by our sponsors over at Gametime. Let me tell you about Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live event even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They also have a 50% off Labor Day offer for Diamondbacks Dodgers. Obviously, a lot of fun stuff going on there. And this is what you guys need to know. Game Time Picks. Their curation makes it easier to save up on sports, concerts, theater, comedy, whatever it is near you. They have all-in prices that show you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You also, all-in prices is the best part because usually you go to buy a ticket and then it's like, oh, by the way, there's an extra $500. And it's like, whoa, that's not what the price was. So they also have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me a part of your daily routine, making me your first listen. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Let's continue to grow this community. Let's also talk about why I don't think Colorado is being viewed through the right lens still. I talked about it yesterday. I talked about there's a bias towards Deion Sanders in Colorado because people are unable to separate Deion Sanders from the program. They're unable to sort of look at where this program has been and where it's coming to or going to. Excuse me. Got the hiccups all of a sudden. Where they don't understand where it's been 1-11, 5-19 before Deion Sanders got there. And they don't understand where it's going. He quadrupled their win total, has the program buzzing, has seen a dramatic boost in the local economy, and people still don't care. What it's this whole thing. And I guess they don't have to care about it, right? They don't. But it's like we're losing the bigger picture here. There's only one team in college football right now that where a head coach is going into their second year and people are treating them as if they are a college football dynasty. They're calling this year boomer bust. They're sort of putting Coach Prime on the hot seat, right? And it's like, it's year two, right? I've talked about how I expect this team to be a bowl team. And people are like, no, this team is going to be terrible. Coach Prime is never going to do what he said he would. They're never going to make it to the playoff. And so CBS Sports released a overrated, underrated sort of ranking of Colorado. And this is what they said about Colorado, or the whole Big 12, not just Colorado. And when it came to Colorado, they said, where do you want to start? Coach Prime owned September last season before reality kicked in. He was exposed for not hitting the portal hard enough in both lines, and the bus finished 1-8. It's hard to envision Deion Sanders turning it around in one season. The schedule is one of the toughest in the Big 12. They open with North Dakota State at home, and we know the Bison are giant killers. Then there are back-to-back road games at Nebraska and Colorado State, both of which are big-time revenge games. The Cornhuskers and Rams will be ready. The rules say quarterback Shedeur Sanders has to play another year, but what kind of shape will he be in for the NFL? The 56 sacks allowed to Colorado last season were the most surrendered by a Power 5 squad since 2012. And then he said, I'm thinking twice about climbing on the Deion hype train again. Overrated, though, I think this Colorado team is properly rated if you're looking at it through a realistic perspective. If you're looking at it from a perspective of my perspective, I guess, because I think I'm realistic, the perspective of this Colorado team will be way better than what they were last year. Best case scenario, I think they could kind of push for a little Big 12 title contention. I don't know if they could push for a Big 12 title, but they could contend for it in the sense of the final few weeks of the regular season could come, and it wouldn't shock me if Colorado is a couple games out. If you're looking at it from the perspective of how Colorado painted, where everyone's like, Deion Sanders said they're making the playoffs, so that's how I'm going to view them, then I guess I could see why people would view that as overrated. But again, it's all about perspective. I think we should all look at this Colorado team through the lens of this is a program that has struggled for the past decade. Deion Sanders is building it up. This is not a historically dominant program like a Texas or an Alabama or an Oklahoma or whatever, Notre Dame, whatever program like that, the Blue Bloods of college football. They are not them yet. They could be them eventually. They are not them yet. So stop treating them like they are them, and you will stop feeling that they are overrated. And I think that's the problem that most college football fans are running into. And let's just put a halt to that. Let's just put that narrative to rest. Okay. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. We're going to have some really cool coverage this upcoming season. We're going to have reoccurring guests. We're going to have just in-depth analysis as much as possible, and it's going to be really, really fun. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow, share this podcast. This has been another great episode of Locked On Buffs.